he was in Italy with his team from over here, and they were on a mission, and the pilot got shot, and his blood was dripping down on he was a front gunner. What do they call those? He was in the front of the plane, down lower than the pilot, and he said he couldn't get out. When they did land, then he couldn't get out, and so he never wanted to be in that position again. So then he became a tail gunner because you could get out of the tail if something happened. So that's what he was doing, and then they stayed in Italy, until the war was over. But the telegram to tell my parents that he had crash landed was on the way to them when an English, I can't think of what they call this, like a scout. He was just down on the ground, and maybe a football field away he could see the Germans marching and talking and everything. This guide, scout or whatever they called him. And he found Sal and his crew, and he got them back to where they would be protected and could get back to the part of Italy that they were from. So that was a lucky break because they got found and the telegrams got cut off, and their parents didn't need to know that they were in such danger.
Where did they crash land?
But
where did they crash land?
It was down. It was, I would say, east of Sicily.
Okay.
Over on those countries on the other side of the Adriatic.
Croatia.
Greece.
Macedonia.
Wasn't as far as Greece. It was right.
Serbia?
It was like Italy was here, and then there's the water, the Adriatic, and then the country over there.
Croatia.
What?
Croatia?
Probably. It was Croatia. But that wasn't what they called it then. But
Yeah.
that's where they were and got back to safety because of that British. They called them something else, but I'll call them a scout for lack of vocabulary. But that was his. And then Uncle Vic had a son that was in the service, and he was, I think, in France, and they were in foxholes, and it was nighttime, and it had gotten real quiet, and they wondered why wasn't something happening, and he was young. I don't think he went to college. I think he just decided he wanted to go to service, and he popped his head up out of the foxhole and was killed. So that's two close members in the family that were killed in World War II.
Was that your dad's brother or your mom's brother?
Uncle Vic is my father's brother. They came over when they were all about 14 or 15 because their mother died. And she died she had like a pimple on her face, and they said she scratched it and infected it. And back in those days there wasn't any penicillin or anything, and it went into an infection, and she died. She was young. She was in her 30s. So these boys were all like, I think 14, 15, 17, something like that. And the three of them came over to the United States individually. They didn't come together. For some reason or other, my dad came in through New York, and he decided he wanted to make some money, so he found some lady that had a place for people to stay, and he went to work for her, helping clean up, I guess, the apartments, or probably rooms, not apartments. But anyway, he stayed there for a while, and then he came to Dallas, where his grandmother was. And
how did his grandmother come to be in Dallas?
Well, she had come over because she had won some kind of a lotto or something. I don't know what they called it. In Italy, he won quite a bit of money. I don't know the exact dollar amount because she never said, but she was afraid of what they call the Black Hand, so-called the mafia. And she was afraid that they would find out she won this money and come get it from her or kill her or something. So she came to the United States, and when she came, it took 3 months to get here. and she was on a boat, and she found out after she got out in the ocean that she was pregnant.
Oh,
And she was pregnant with my dad's mother. So his mother was born in the United States. And then when the baby got big enough to travel, they went back to Italy. And Grandma stayed over there. I think it was probably after that she came back with the money. But I was telling the story, I got ahead of myself. But she had that money and came over here. And then individually, each one of the boys, my dad, Brazil, and his brother Vic, who was a little younger than Daddy, and then his brother Charlie, that was older than Daddy, they all came over here individually and got to Dallas, got with Grandma, and she found them work down at the market where the food all is, you know. One of the uncles was working down there for a produce company, and he got them on at various kinds of jobs. And then World War I started, and they were a little older then, and they all volunteered. And my dad was in a tank company.
Did they speak English when they came over?
No, all of it, no.
Yeah.
And they just self-taught themselves English, you know, in the neighborhood and wherever they were.
Yeah.
And then I guess self-taught himself to read,
Yeah.
because back in those days they didn't, you know, offer much education for people that were foreign.
That's true.
So anyway, he could read the newspaper, and I think of that as a pretty big miracle, because, you know, they didn't have anybody helping them.
No.
Nobody in the family was really educated over here. So anyway,
why did they have to come over? Where was their dad?
their dad was there. He was, well, they called him a lawyer, but he worked in the city hall, and he did papers for people that needed to travel or go away, or various kinds of papers. So he was kind of like a lawyer, but I don't know what the education was for that. But one of them was, he was like a lawyer. There was one of them was a doctor, and one of them was a priest, one of the older family members. So he, you know, they were a pretty smart group as a whole, and but all the brothers that came over here just had to take type labor work, you know, of some kind, because they were so young. And then after they got over here, they didn't go to school anymore. So then Daddy started working in the produce market then, and I don't know, he had a drugstore after a while, and it was down by the market. I guess he saved his money. And then later he had a vegetable wagon. It wasn't a wagon, it was a truck with open sides, and he used to stock up all the vegetables and stuff, and he used to go down Swiss Avenue in Gaston, and that was a part of town over toward the eastern part out kind of far, and it was near White Rock Lake. But he used to go up and down those streets and had huge homes, big two-story houses. And he was the vegetable man, and so he would stop every once in a while and ring a bell, and people would come out and buy vegetables from him. And he met a lot of old families that were wealthy old Dallas families, because those were huge houses. And years later, when he opened a restaurant in Oklahoma, some of those same people's children were older and would come to the restaurant, and Daddy would recognize their name, or they looked like their parents or something. But it seemed like his job just led him into, well, the restaurant was in Oklahoma, and it was real popular. It was a steakhouse and had Italian food. And he, I was going to tell you now, lost my train of thought.
How did he open a restaurant?
Well, I guess he saved his money, you know, as he grew older and did different things, and like, I don't know that he made a lot of money in the drugstore, but anyway.
Was this after World War I or time?
No, the restaurant was after World War I.
Okay.
He he went to the service. That's how they all got their citizenship, from serving. And when they got out, they got their American citizenship.
And he was in the tank group. And then what were his brothers? What jobs?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You know, of course, I wasn't born.
No. Was this wasn't when they were gunner? Was that World War II? When one of them was a gunner?
That was Sal.
That was Sal. Okay.
That was World War II.
That was World War II. Okay.
And let's see. On the Clayses, see, I don't remember any stories about my mother's brothers, except that they came over with their father, and they were, I'm assuming, like teenagers, probably 16, 17, 18,
Yeah.
because the mother and let's see, she had 6 children then. The 3 older boys came with the dad to Louisiana to find and buy a farm for the family, so the families had come over. But in the
Okay.
meantime, they worked for the railroads. They worked digging tracks and whatever, because they helped get the railroad started in the southern part of the country. And they ended up buying a farm right across from New Orleans, across the Mississippi.
Is that where they came
That's
in?
Gretna.
Yeah.
Well, they came into New Orleans.
Okay.
Well, all I ever knew is you either came into New Orleans or New York.
Right.
And Mother's family came into New Orleans,
Okay.
and Daddy's family the guys came into New York. So they were born about 11 or 12 miles apart in Sicily. Daddy was Porgeriali, and can't think of the name of the town Mother was from. I could look it up, but I can't remember right now. And so when Mother was probably about 21, the grandmother that won all the money, she knew somebody in New Orleans, and I guess through correspondence, somebody said my dad was so many years old and did thus and so, and he was looking for a wife, and so they talked to somebody, to Grandma up here, and he came to visit and to meet Mother. And
Because your mother was the
yeah,
one that-
Mother was like 21. They were almost the same age, about a year apart. And anyway, I guess they liked each other, because then, you know, he went back home.
Online dating,
and-
huh?
Yeah. No, it wasn't online. It was just,
Correspondence, yeah.
anyway, then they got married they were married in June. Let's see if I can think of the year. I can't really remember. But anyway.
How many times did you think they met before they got married?
Not many. Because they were 500 miles apart.
They were writing letters.
Well, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess they could have spoken on the telephone. I don't really know.
I don't know when it became.
I never asked that many questions. Oh, but anyway, they got married. He came up one time and brought her a lavalier. And do y'all know what that is?
No.
Well, it was on a little gold chain, and it was shaped like a little shield, and there was a lot of open space in it, and it had 1 pearl and 1 diamond in it, and it was shaped, you know, kind of irregularly, and those were in there. And Grandma, Mother gave it to me, I think when I was 13, and then I gave it to Cindy when she was 13 or 15, 14, somewhere in there. She was going to some special party or something. And it's put away. And I don't know when she's ever worn it again, but it's old, and for a while there, they were, probably you could have found them in any pawn shop, but you know, it's special in our family, so we're saving it. Hey you, what's going on? An interview.
Go away.
You can stay.
Can you think of anything else I might say?
How you met Grandpa?
Oh, he came back from World War II. It was in July, and he went to see an old friend of his named Dorothy Taylor, there was Dorothy and Mary. Mary was my age, and Dorothy was your dad's age. They were in high school together and knew each other well, like from a neighborhood. And he came home and he found out he didn't know anybody anymore. And all the girls he knew were married. And so he called her and said he wanted a date, but he didn't know anybody anymore. So she gave him the name of a girl in our sorority, and he went out with her, and evidently didn't want to go out with her again. So he called her back, and he said, well, do you know anybody else that might go out with me? And she said, well, there's this one girl, but it's kind of hard to get a date with her because her dad's real particular. And said, you can't go out with her until you meet the dad. And so he said, well, how can I meet her? And she said, well, she works in her dad's restaurant in the afternoon. I was going to SMU at the time. After classes, she goes over there. And I would go after school, and he would go home and shower and lay down a while before business. In the evening was when he did the most business. And so I would be there. And so she told him where it was, and that he could call me. So he called, and I said, well, I'm going to be here till 5:30 or something. He said, well, it'd be all right if you stop by. And I said, yeah, that'll be fine. So he came over, and I was working behind the counter at a little desk, and I was doing bookwork, figuring out salaries and stuff. And so I was sitting there. I heard the front door and the restaurant open and shut, and I looked around. Here's this big blue-eyed thing looking over those refrigerators. They stood kind of tall, and they had a bunch of pies in them. That's where he kept all. The guy would make them in the morning, and then they'd put them in that refrigerator. Here's Mike looking over the counter like that. So anyway, we talked, and so I told him that, you know, I wanted him to meet my dad. So he came back about 5:30 and met Daddy, and Daddy didn't have very much to say. He didn't really want me dating people, but...
How old were you?
I didn't start dating until I was 20, and I was probably 21 when I met Mike.
How many dates had you been on before then?
Oh, some. I don't remember. Some dances, and I don't remember. Not a, you know.
Less than 10?
Oh, I don't think so, no. Because it'd been over a year. No, I don't think it's more than that. And then we had school events and stuff, and sorority things, and, you know, it was okay. I mean, I didn't have any steady beaux, really.
What did you think when you saw Mike for the first time?
Well, after we had our date, I thought he was cute, you know, and he had sort of sandy red hair, and he's almost 6 foot tall, just a little under, like 11, 5'11", you know, and he was heavy set, but I wouldn't call him fat, but he was a big guy. And then his friend, Nick Coakless, well, I knew that family, and I knew Nick from before, and they were buddies in high school, and or knew each other, and they were in Europe together. Mike had what kind of company did he have? Well, anyway, Nick had the laundry. Oh, Mike had the food department, and Nick had the laundry equipment, because they followed the troops, and Mike's troop fed the guys, and Nick's group did all their laundry and whatever. And so they were in the war together all the time. And the whole time they were over there, they were together. And they tell the story about they rented a car, and they had a bunch of silk stockings and chocolate bars, and they were going to Paris. And they, you know, used the stockings to give to women, and the chocolate bars to anybody if it's for something they wanted. So anyway, that was a big joke about what the guys did, you know, over in Europe, because nobody had silk stockings and they needed them or wanted them. and then everybody loved chocolate. So it was funny. Nick said they were going somewhere, and Mike was in the back seat eating all the chocolate. He loved candy. So I knew that's one of their wartime stories. But
Did it matter that he was Irish and you were Italian? Was that a
Not
problem?
really.
No.
no. Well, in those days, I didn't know very many Italians. We lived on the end of town near White Rock Lake, and most of the Italians lived pretty close to downtown.
Okay.
And they all went to a different church downtown, and I went to a church on the east end of Dallas. And so, you just didn't have the chance to meet them.
Yeah.
Mother didn't drive very well,
Yeah.
and we didn't go a lot of places far away from home. So then when Daddy had his restaurant and I worked in there, most people that came in there were adults. Sometimes they had their children with them, but back in those days, lots of times if you went out, you left your kid. They didn't take kids to restaurants like they do today. That would be a real special thing, plus they just didn't do it. And let's see. When Sal came back from the war, he went to work in Dad's restaurant. And but he knew he didn't want to have a restaurant or be in the restaurant business. So he took some television courses, and he got a job going to people's homes to fix their televisions. But he didn't do that very long because he said there wasn't any money in it. He said you'd go to their house, use your truck, your gasoline, and have to have stock in your truck, and you'd get there, and maybe they needed one little plug or something, battery or anything. He said they may have needed something that cost $5. By the time you got over there and put the $5 item in and charged a little bit, he said you couldn't make any money for your truck expenses. It was just a hard thing to get into. So then he went to work for Mike and did well, and then Mike wanted to open up in Houston an office, so he opened an office down there and sent Sal down, and they ran that for a long time.
How did you guys decide to get married?
Oh, pretty quickly. Mike was anxious to get married. We met in July, got married in December. It was really quick. But back in those days, I don't think there were many long engagements. And a lot of girls, they used to claim, just went to college because they wanted to meet a guy to get married. And so anyway, I was a junior when we got married. And he had just gotten back, and he found out at A&M he had to go one more semester to get his degree because they took him out his senior year. And after he got down there and enrolled, they told him he had to go a second semester because there was an English class that he didn't do, and he had to pick that one up, and they didn't find out till it was too late in the semester. So after we got married in December, I moved down there, and they had us on a place called the Polo Fields, but they put a bunch of barracks up in there, and they were pretty bad. They were like a little living room and a bedroom and a bathroom and a kitchen. And in the bedroom, you could see the 2x4s going up and down, and the sheetrock on the other side of the wall.
Oh, yeah.
The bedroom was all just exposed wood. And we went to the grocery store and got some orange crates. They have a split in the middle, and they're about that big. We'd turn them on their side like that, and it was an end table. We weren't going to be down there but a semester. So anyway, we had some other furniture, but that was one of our end tables. But let's see. On my mother's side.
Hold on 1 second.
Pause 1 sec.